Call the council meeting to order, and before we do anything on the agenda, in deputations, Pat Campbell is not available tonight. He will be in 2 weeks. There will be in department reports, FDNH report, also in the year-to-date report. There's another in direct finance. There will be a report on Alice Monroe Labor Market Partnership. In new business, it will be file 22 in the consent application, not 21 as printed. And in bylaws, there will be a bylaw number 45, basically to follow up with the Alice Monroe Labor Market Partnership that North Huron is working on. So, with those changes or additions, motion to accept the agenda. Gordon and Reach, all in favor? Carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, if any. None noted. In the Reeves report, basically, I had the honor of being at the 40th season opening gala of the Blythe Festival and Kitchen Radio. I wondered what it was going to be like. It was a little bit like I expected, but it was extremely great music and an adaptation of a story. So that definitely wishing Blythe Theatre well with the 40th season and a very strong start. Moving to the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting, do I have a motion? Campbell and Reach. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Business arising from previous meetings. Gary, do you want to take that?
Okay, thank you, Reed. I've provided a report to council regarding radio advertisements. You recall that at the first council meeting in June, council approved additional resources for economic development. And part of that economic development list included some resources that we would like to embark on a radio advertising campaign. Councillor McGowan requested more information about the radio advertising plan that we were proposing. So I outlined a proposal that both Connie and I support. It's one we received from CKNX Radio. The proposal would involve 3 different North Huron commercials. These would be written and produced by the station. They would run in rotation. The ads would start this week and end the last week of August. Buying in bulk gives us a bit of a discount, so we could get 180 commercials at $38 an ad. We're proposing to advertise on the FM station, which has a listening audience of almost 60,000 people. Has a very powerful, for those of you that travel around Midwestern Ontario, it has a very powerful signal that reaches a large geographic area. from Tobermory to Grand Bend, Kincardine to Shelburne. So I'm looking for discussion and questions. Hopefully, council will support our recommendation to engage CKNX Radio for this radio advertising proposal. I should also clarify that the motion we received at the June 2nd council meeting was not specific enough as to where the funds were going to come from. So I think there was discussion that the $17,000 that we were requesting would come from reserves, but the motion wasn't specific enough. So we'd like to get a motion just to provide more clarity and certainty. So have that on the books, and we'd also like to get a recommendation or a acceptance of my recommendation on the radio ads. Thank you.
Ron?
I have a question. I found it difficult to feel comfortable that the coverage of North Huron is complete. I wondered if it was, it doesn't really indicate to what extent all of the wards are covered. That's the only question I have about it. I think the idea of radio advertising is a positive one, but it's just a caution that I'd like to make.
Bernie?
Just what I have a few questions on it. First of all, I think a lot of BIA advertise on CKNX now. I'm not sure. I know the wing of BIA does, and local merchants do. And I believe this is, since you said this is coming under reserves, I believe, and we've never actually got that because we have over $100,000 or $125,000 that we spend on advertising in our budget now with different departments. And we understand the flushing and all that, and then there's some of it like we hear the place at the end of town advertising the setup they have. I'm just not sure what you're going to advertise. We don't really have any industrial land to speak of to sell. We can't really go there. Our main streets are pretty full, so we can't go there. I believe when it comes to the homes too, I don't think we've got a lot of land to sell homes on, so I'm just wondering if we're not premature in spending this kind of money to advertise, except for come to Wingham, which is obviously going to be in, I'm just not, or sorry, North Huron, sorry, Brock, except for coming in North Huron, I'm just not seeing the benefit of spending this kind. I'd rather see it put away for another day.
Okay, so just a couple comments. I'm not sure the number that you quoted earlier is accurate. I don't believe that we're spending $125,000 in advertising. I think the number would be closer to 20 to 30.
Off the top of my head, I don't know, Carrie, but I can certainly look it up for you.
I appreciate that. Then it's done.
Yeah. But in terms of the purpose of the ad, I guess if you look at the successful brands, whether it's McDonald's, Tim Hortons, Google, Microsoft, you name it. Sometimes those companies advertise just to keep their company name in the limelight and to reinforce the positive brand that they have. So they're not advertising a particular sale or a particular product. They're just out there, and they're constantly advertising to make sure that they're projecting a positive brand of the company. And I think it's important that we adopt a similar strategy whereby we make some investments in strategic marketing and radio advertising to project a certain image, not just to our residents, but to others who are living and working in Midwestern Ontario. There's a positive story to tell in North Huron. These ads would help us to tell that story. Whether we're selling anything or not, whether we've got some land to sell or land to buy, it's really about putting our name in the forefront, telling people we've got a good story to tell. There's lots going on here. Come and join us. Be a part of our success. That's really all it's doing. But I think as part of that, it's enhancing civic pride. It's making our residents feel good about themselves. It's supporting our businesses and our BIAs. And I think it will help us build on the positive momentum that currently exists throughout the township. So, granted, we're not selling anything or anything, but it's about branding. It's about municipal branding. And I think in today's global, competitive marketplace, we need to do everything we can to project a positive image of what we're doing. We're competing with our neighbors for residents and doctors and investment. So let's put something out there that's very positive. Sorry, proposing.
I'd like to make another comment. The situation that we're in with a very low population and high-cost services demands that we have revenue from elsewhere. And we need to get the word out beyond the boundaries of North Huron constantly to remind people that we're here. We have a lot to offer. I think that's just carrying on with what Gary was pointing out. I think that's a really important thing. If we don't have this kind of advertising, people beyond our boundaries are going to hear very little about us.
Dave,
Yeah, I agree with advertising. I think it's really important, and we do have a story to tell, and North Huron's a great place to live. But the only question I have is, if we're advertising in this area, are we broad enough? Should we be going further south or maybe further east to reach a wider audience and get more people to come here, rather than advertising, I'm going to call this local?
Certainly, we can go back and get some more information as to other markets that we can advertise. I think the issue is, which I've raised in the report, is that it'd be great if we could advertise in London and Kitchener Waterloo. I think we'll find that the cost per ads are rather prohibitive, and so we wouldn't be able to really make a big impact in those markets. But if that is where council would rather put resources, then we can go to those markets as well.
If I could to just, we're looking at summer advertising because we have a lot of visitors going through this area. And CKNX market certainly reaches a lot of those visitors. So, I mean, I have been in contact with some other radio stations in different areas. And people rarely move to a place they haven't visited. So at this point in time, we're looking at capturing those people that have enjoyed, maybe enjoying their cottage time, enjoyed their summer vacation, or enjoying, their time on the road with their family. And you know what? You can move here. You can experience this all the time. So that's really kind of what we're looking at with the summer market locally. But like Gary said, CKNX does have a very large listening audience. So,
Gary, have we got a price from Kitchener Station or not the station compared to it all, or do we just think that more expensive?
I wouldn't say we've got a precise number, but I think it's probably $80 to $100.
Yeah, I tried to, like I said, been trying to talk to some other radio stations. They're a little bit slower at the game then. So I can certainly continue to look at some of those.
If that's council's direction, we'll certainly pursue that. I think we would say that or estimate that the cost per commercial would probably be 2-3 times what CKNX is charging.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. But if that's where we'd like to go with that, then we can get more information. I feel it's important that these ads begin immediately so that we're making an impact sooner rather than later. That being said, if council would like more information, then we'll definitely get that information for you.
Well,
I make a motion that we accept this proposal for the radio ads. Again,
I'll second.
okay. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. That covers all of them.
Yes, and thank you for that. I would like to get a motion from council just to sort of deal with the issue of reserves, because and this may have been my mistake, that we didn't deal with the issue of reserves in the June 2nd council meeting. And it was for $17,000 for economic development resources. And the discussion was that would come from reserves, but we don't have a motion to that effect and would like to get that from council tonight.
Reach and one. Discussion?
Gary, where about in the reserves are you pulling this from?
We were gonna take $2,500 from economic development for brochures that we had left over from 2 or 3 years ago. And there was about $6,800 left over from the strategic planning exercise. And then the balance would come out of a planning and development reserve that we had set aside a couple of years ago.
Does that deplete any of these towns?
Yes, it depletes the $2,500 economic development brochure and the strategic plan reserve that we had. So both of those were leftover funding from those two projects then, and so we put those funds aside after those two projects were completed.
Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Health and safety is just for the release. Moving to CAO clerk on the tax exempt request. Take it. You good?
On the Wing Hospital?
Yes.
Yes, sure. So council had a presentation from the Wingham Hospital regarding their proposed redevelopment there a short time ago. And council was supportive of the concept at that time, and of course there'd be more information coming forward. One of the requests that they put forward to council that day was that council would support the this new development having tax exempt status. So we've gone through that process before, and it is allowed under Section 110 of the Municipal Act, but there are a number of procedures that you have to go through and a number of research activities that you have to undertake with MPAC in order to be able to pass this bylaw and be able to make this property tax exempt. So as I said at that meeting, council was supportive of the redevelopment, and in order to spend the research time that we'll need to do to be able to prepare this bylaw, we wanted to have something formally on the books because all the information presented that day was at an information and education session. And so we felt that it was only prudent that we have an actual direction from council to indicate your support so that when this bylaw does come forward to council that you are well aware of it and the staff time that it's going to take to research that.
Would that be the whole property then, Donna?
No.
Say if another, say a drugstore or something in there, they're not going to be exempt. It's just what is related to the hospital.
Right. As we talked about that day, it depends on what the end use actually ends up being. And as of this day, we don't actually know that. There could be, that may not come through, or there could be something else. So yes, it depends on what sort of commercial activities that do end up. But we have to get started somewhere along the line and head down this road to do the research. So.
Dave, this may be a dumb question, but is a doctor's office a commercial operation? And if a doctor opened an office on Josephine Street in Blythe, would he pay taxes? And so if he opens an office in the former school, would he be tax exempt?
Under this procedure right at the moment, it wouldn't be tax exempt either. Under the section of the Act that we're talking about, council can pass a bylaw for health-related activities that the municipality may provide. So in some other communities, municipalities are actually putting the capital dollars out and building these clinics. And so they're exempt from there. In this case, because the situation is a little bit different, we're on a little bit of a different footing here because we don't actually own the building and won't own the building. Some of the other avenues we've looked at down the road, we will own the building, but that's not the case here. So as for an individual doctor's office, I haven't really checked into that one, but my assumption would be that it would be taxable because it would be in a commercial storefront occupied by a separate tenant. This is a completely different situation in that it's a whole health-related clinic type of a setup. Does that make sense?
Sorry.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of yes and no's until we get all the research done.
How do you want this motion worded then? That it's hospital related, or just the property in general will be tax exempt?
At this time, I would say that we're looking for council direction that staff investigate the required documentation to obtain tax exempt status for this property.
Okay, but maybe not all of it will be?
No.
Yes, okay,
So you could say applicable portions of this property.
okay.
But that may never happen, so we don't know. And again, this doesn't commit you to anything because all we're going to do is do all the research. The bylaw still has to come forward like any other bylaw, and I'm sure you're going to be having updates along the way as well, and we may have to come back to you a couple of times with different steps that we may have to take.
Right?
So in that motion, that we wouldn't put in with the understanding that the pharmacy, if included, would be required to pay commercial taxes. That would come after.
Yeah.
Right?
I would make that motion.
Okay. Bernie, your second comment or?
No second.
Okay. I was going to let you talk if you want. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thanks, Donna.
Okay.
Okay. Moving to point 3, Manager of Employee and Business Services. Kathy, on Canada's anti-spam legislation.
The reporting in the package is for your information only, and this is just to ensure that the municipality, as of July 1st, 2014, we're in compliance with Canada's anti-spam legislation. So we had Liquid research this and prepare a report for staff and council information. So it's just, we don't require a motion on it, it's just for information purposes. We don't.
No. Okay, I think the report's fairly self-explanatory, and I know that personally I've had a number of places where I've had to give authorization that they can continue sending me the news bulletin updates. Moving to point 4, Director of Finance, Energy Conservation and Demand Management Plan. And thanks again, Donna.
Okay. So further to item number 5 in council information, you see that July 1st was a date that we were working towards in order to file our required Ministry of Energy plan, not only our energy conservation and demand management plan, but we were required to file our 2012 energy consumption for all North Huron buildings that are heated and cooled. So those reports were filed with the Ministry of Energy on their website, and as well they are posted on the Township of North Huron website as required. But we also need a council resolution to finalize it to have it recorded in the minutes. Both of those items, if you notice, we haven't actually set a target for reduction. And one of the plans that we have is it's very difficult to reduce energy kilowatt hours. Price, of course, they're not interested in, and price we're interested in, of course, but that's not part of the requirements that have to be filed. We also have our 2013 data gathered and up to date in 2014, but you can't file that data on the ministry website as at yet. They're always a year behind. So our plan actually covers from 2012 to 2016. And as I said, we haven't set an overall target because back in 2009, 2010, that's when we went at all of our, I guess we were a bit ahead of ourselves, and we went at all those energy projects where we put timers on the showers down at the complex, and we switched over, if you remember, all the projects are listed as part of the plan. We took 11 of our buildings and changed the lighting in there from the T12s down to the T8, so that was significant savings. And we're working on another, a couple of projects as well. So one of the last buildings we have in the future to flip over to from oil to gas, of course, we've been talking about is a museum. And Kelly switched over the East Wamanah shed at the end of last year off of oil onto propane. So those are some of the ongoing projects that we have, but with the cold winters, that's the one factor that isn't built in. So our kilowatt hours actually went up because of the winter that we had, and there's really no way of showing that we have conserved all we could throughout the year, but we have no control over the winter. So anyway, if you have any questions on the plan, we'll be reviewing this plan. We have to update it annually. Our North Huron Energy and Environment Committee will be looking at the plan periodically as well. And I've prepared several reports for our department heads now that they can track their kilowatt hours, because as I said, we have 11, 12, and 13 for consumption data that they can use, and price is all over the place a lot of the time, so price is not the best indicator, but it's still, for budgeting purposes, we need that piece of information as well. So unless anybody has any other questions, we're looking for a motion to adopt the Energy Conservation and Demand Management Plan.
James moves, Brock seconds. Thank you very much for all your work in putting this together, Donna. And personally, I think it's maybe a good idea to keep an open mind and not put a target. Because too often when you put a target, that's as far as you go. With an exact target, I think we're looking at improving everything that we can make business case feasibility on. So that, thank you for all your efforts on it. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Carried.
I'm just going to say a quick thing too. Richard and Dawn have been a great help on this project as well. So it's been a lot of work for everyone. Glad to see it posted and finalized. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving to point 5. We'll do the rest of this. There's Branch 420, Live Legion Ladies Auxiliary. I have a request to transfer from reserves for the renovations to 1419 Memorial Hall project. You want to explain that a little more?
Okay, so this money, $2,377.25, came with Blythe as part of amalgamation. So we really don't have any documentation as to when that money was given to the village of Blythe, but as I said, it was prior to 2001. So we've kept track of it ever since then, and it was always earmarked that it would be for renovations to Memorial Hall, particularly the kitchen, although as I said, we don't have any documentation. That's just basically what we hear from the folks around the community. So of course, as you know, with the 14-19 campaign underway, this money is sitting in North Huron reserves, and so we need a motion to turn it over officially to the 14-19 campaign. So that's what we would like to do.
So move.
Dave seconds. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. And year-to-date report, you just want questions from it, or?
Yes, if anybody had any questions, we've finished up June. So if there is any question, we do have some journal entries. We do a bunch of adjustments throughout accounts at every 6 months, and I've been meeting with some of the department heads just to see how they're doing at the 6 month halfway mark. So if council has any questions, please just let me know, and I can go over those in detail with you. Okay.
Thank you very much for all your work.
Okay.
Stuff.
Then shall I move on to the Alice Munro then, and
Certainly.
we'll finish that one up as well. So later on under the bylaw section, as Gary pointed out, we're going to be looking at a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Ministry of Universities, College and Trades in regard to the Alice Munro Labor Market Partnership Project. And Connie and Gary have been the lead on this project and have done an extreme amount of work getting ready for it. So basically at budget time, all we knew at that time was that we were looking for various partners to participate in this project. And our budget, we actually have $20,000 that was approved as part of the 2014 budget as the North Huron contribution to this project. So that has all evolved and the funding has been approved. So at this point, they're looking at a total project estimated cost of $301,000, with $241,000 coming from MTCU, and then there's 4 other partners in this project, being the County of Huron, Central Huron, Morris Turnberry, and North Huron. So each of those will contribute $15,000 plus various in-kind donations. Connie, as I said, Connie's done an extreme amount of work on this. So you have the report in front of you, but basically it's no change to the North Huron budget other than we may have some minimal effects on cash flow, because at some point we'll be putting out the whole $300,000, but they've already given us some money up front, and as the partner money comes in and such, it'll be, you know, some sort of a short time frame till we send the claim in and get our money back. So both Gary and Connie can answer any more specific questions relating to the project, but that's basically what we're looking for, is so that our expenditures would be increased by $301,000 this year, but there is the offsetting revenue. So is there any questions?
But you're not going to answer those questions down at the lecture.
Yes, they are. That's why I'm saying, any questions? I can help you.
That's a part of that.
So with something like this, with the $300,000 we're going to be spending, are we actually going to try to purchase her original home and have it as a tourist site, or is this strictly just for everybody thinking what they're going to do and all those things that how do you do?
Sure. This project actually doesn't need any capital money. It is actually the major part of the project will actually be engaging the community to find out what sort of things should be done. We'll also be looking at the extended community of people who are actually already coming to this area, and what sort of things are they looking for when they're coming to Alice Munro country. What is the draw to this area, and how can we realize some really great economic development benefits from that. So the project includes hiring a project coordinator who is in place. Actually, Alison Neary has been hired to take on this project. And some really great things are going to be happening with that, and just searching out some partnerships. And as what we have talked before, Allison will also be sending out RFPs for consultants to take on some studies in international tourism, festival development, museum development, digital literacy, and that fifth one. So we can all tie it together and figure out how we're going to realize economic development potential for the entire area. So as an example, later on, Allison is actually meeting with the steering committee, the initial steering committee, later on this week to kind of set direction and set goals. But later on this month, she will be meeting actually with the staff from the University of Western Ontario. There are 3 deans of the literature and English department that are coming up that actually are seeking this or the Alice Munro partnership and what kind of things that we can partner on together. What can they do to support us, what we can do to support them. They're looking specifically at the festival and tours in the area and just what kind of partnerships will happen. So that's what Allison will be doing, like really taking advantage of building those partnerships with hopefully an extended, it's not just a very local project. It's yeah.
So when this is done, the study is done, then do you think there will be more funding to do something like that, to purchase her home, revamp it? Maybe the theater upstairs
We
could
can
be...
apply for phase 2 funding.
Ah, now you're making me. So there's a phase 2, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Connie. That explained a lot of things. Is there any other questions? That motion to move forward with it? Dave and James? Any questions?
I don't understand what we're moving on. What is the wording of the motion?
Basically, I'll say that we're moving forward through this. Because of the provincial election, there was a whole bunch of stuff that could not be made public during the election campaign. So we're actually doing a little bit of catch up right now.
I thought we had already approved it.
That's fine, thanks.
Okay, and for the motion, it would be North Huron has to amend the 2014 budget to reflect the costs and the money that would be coming back in.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Mover and seconder, good with that? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay, new business? Okay, we'll go to point 5, Fire Department of North Huron. David?
I'm going to actually have a seat up the back of things and ask Deputy Chief Townsend if you'd join me here. Last week, 2 weeks ago, my sense of time is kind of vaporized. 2 weeks ago, we had our swearing in, and as you're aware at that time, we celebrated Keith Hodgkinson's retirement and years of service. And we also welcomed Deputy Chief Matt Townsend to the department. I thought it'd be appropriate tonight to bring Matt to council so that councillors and some of the other staff will be familiar with Matt, or at least recognize him if they see them out and about. And it also ties in well with one of the items we want to discuss this evening. Our department works with 2 deputy chiefs, Deputy Chief Krieger, who is responsible for a lot of the administrative functions as well as the training of the fire department, and all of our medical response training and ongoing maintenance of that program. Deputy Chief Townsend, as he steps into Keith's shoes, is responsible for all of our equipment. And that ranges from air packs and auto extrication equipment to fire suppression equipment in the vehicles themselves. As well, part of the portfolio is firefighter safety, and Matt will be picking up the mantle on our cancer prevention programs we're trying to initiate as a department. You do have our June reports in front of you, and yes, we continue to be busy. By the end of June, we have surpassed the typical historical year's fire hours and level of activity. And if you look at our budget, you'll see that our wages would reflect a year's activity. You'll see that our fuel consumption reflects a year of activity. And you'll see that our maintenance does. Reality is that we're just busy. We've had 4 calls in the last 36 hours, or last 3 days, I guess, so last 72 hours. And it just carries on. That being said, we continue to train on our new equipment and hope to have it all in place and operational in the near future. And we continue in all the stuff that's supposed to help us prevent fire calls from occurring in the first place. A couple of initiatives I would like to highlight, though, is under fire prevention, 24% of preventable fire deaths in Ontario occur in homes or in places where there's hoarding going on. And hoarding is basically where people have an irrational collection of stuff to the point that it becomes dangerous. So when you start to hear 24% of preventable fire deaths occur in residences with hoarding, obviously that's something that as a fire department we need to have a look at. Prevention Officer Egan connected the Fire Prevention Committee from the Fire Chiefs Association with the hoarding specialists from the Fire Marshal's office. And we are trying to establish a hoarding coalition for our county. Hoarding coalitions exist across much of Ontario, and they bring in all the social services, bring in the public health agencies, all the related parties to hoarding, because it's not an easy one-step, two-step process. It's very complicated. Hoarding tendencies is actually a diagnosed and categorized psychological condition. So there's obviously that component to it as well. But it poses a risk both for the occupants and for the rescuers should there be a fire emergency. And if we're going to be diligent in trying to reduce the risk to our residences, this is one more piece of the toolkit. I'm not really sure where this is going. This is new to our area, a new idea. Seems to be some enthusiasm, and we will know probably by the end of the month if this has traction or not. But as a fire chief, my job is to ensure the safety of my people and the people we're called to protect. And this is one more thing that we want to put in our arsenal. You will also notice at the bottom of the page that despite our level of activity, we continue to maintain our standards in terms of equipment testing. So our firefighters have tested all the frontline hose in use at the Blythe Fire Station, and Wingham hoses will all be tested by the end of this week. So despite being very busy, our firefighters are still taking the extra time to make sure that our equipment is fit for service. Only one incident I want to flag, there were 17 in June, but one incident I want to flag, and I just want to remind people, it doesn't matter if you're in North Huron, if you're in ACW, Wawa, Thunder Bay, Windsor. In Ontario, if you are having an outdoor controlled burn, it is a contravention of the Ontario Fire Code to not be in attendance and supervise that burn. That's not a North Huron bylaw, that's not a Huron County bylaw, that's province-wide. If you have a controlled burn going on, you are required to stay in attendance with that burn to ensure that it does not spread. In the case of the incident on June 20th, there was significant smoke across Blythe Road due to a pile of garbage was lit and set a field on fire, to the point that the fire department requested OPP attend the incident to assist in case there were traffic-related issues. It wouldn't matter where we are in Ontario, that is against the law. So just a reminder to everybody that that's not something that this council made up, that's not something the county council made up, that's province-wide. Aside from that, I've alluded to in the past that one of the things I'll be coming to council with is an assessment of our firefighting fleet of trucks and a review of our apparatus. And a few reasons for that. Firstly is we've got ongoing capital reserves, and we want to ensure that our budget and our reserves are adequate for what our projected equipment replacement is. So we've gone out and we've researched, and our projected budget for the next 4 years is in fact quite solid, and will certainly see us through the required equipment replacement, which is a good thing. Second part of it is, though, is that as our fleet changes, so does the use of some of our apparatus. And what I mean by that is, in Wingham Station we have Engine 1, which is our frontline fire pumper. It is what is called a rescue pumper. A rescue pumper is a fire truck that not only pumps water, but it's actually configured and designed so that it can carry your auto extrication equipment on board the same pumper. We have never actually used Engine 1 as a rescue pumper. We've strictly used it as a pumper only. But our mechanical committee, which consists of 2 captains reporting to Deputy Chief Townsend, investigated, and we were able to move the auto extrication equipment from Rescue 3 in Wingham Station onto Engine 1. The compartments were designed to hold it, roll-out trays for the equipment and so forth. And that didn't actually displace any equipment on Engine 1. It's just a matter of getting it more organized. With the implementation of Ladder 2, and as it comes into our fleet, it's got a lot of cabinet space. Aerial ladder trucks are designed to carry a lot of fire suppression equipment because that's what they do. They're not going to do auto extrication. Our ladder truck used to do medical response, but for us it's strictly a fire suppression truck. So once we started to work on the cabinet assignments in Ladder 2, we were able to move fire suppression equipment from Rescue 3 into Ladder 2, which means it's not only available for a fire call should it be in the Wingham Station response area, but because Ladder 2 is going to any working fire that FD&H has, means that equipment will now be available to Blythe Station responses as well. So the net result of this is, as we move that equipment from Rescue 3, we now have a 2001 rescue truck with 19,000 kilometers on it. Has a seating capacity for a driver and 1 passenger. And as of tonight, there isn't a single thing in any of the cabinets. The entire truck is empty, and quite candidly, it's a great truck. But with the larger and newer apparatus we've put into our system over the last several years, concluding with Ladder 2, we now have a redundant rescue truck. At the same time, while we're putting in larger and newer apparatus, we're faced with a challenge. And that is when we go out to field fires or we go out to farm machinery fires and somebody's got a combine worth $500,000 or $600,000 at the back of their field, it's a challenge for us to get there. Earlier this year, we had a fire at the back of a field in Morris Turnberry, and our equipment was not able to get back to it, so our firefighters laid out 2,000 feet of hose in order to get to it. And then we have to clean 2,000 feet of hose, dry 2,000 feet of hose, and put it back in service. After that, just down the road from Jim Campbell, we had a fire at the back of the field where it wasn't suitable for us to drag hose across the field in a timely manner. Our frontline pumper from Blythe got stuck in the field, and then had a tow truck hook onto that, and then a tractor onto the tow truck to get our fire apparatus out. The result of that has been is that Engine 6, which is Blythe's frontline fire pumper, has cracks in its fire pack. And it will be going in for repairs and welds on those cracks. Charge Fire, that looks after our fire truck maintenance, has basically told us that should we continue to use Engine 6 to go across fields and areas other than proper roadways, based on the condition of the truck, we could very well destroy the fire pack on the back of that truck. In Blythe's case, we're able to use our Cub Cadet utility vehicle that we're concluding training on this evening, so we've now got it covered. In Wingham's case, historically we've used Engine 2, which is the old engine that's going out of service when Ladder 2 comes into service. The plan short term is to replace it with Tanker 4 to go across fields to deal with field fires or farm machinery that's out of the road. But once again, much as Engine 6 has been compromised due to some of those activities, although Tanker 4 only has 3 years to go, concern is it's an even heavier truck than Engine 6. And likewise, we may compromise it. So on the one hand, we're proposing that we dispose of or sell a now redundant asset because of the new vehicle we got in place. The second part of that proposal is that near term we're not ready to tackle any other fleet changes or stuff because we have a lot of training we've put through this year already. But we'd like to propose that money be put into the capital reserve account of the fire department to be used for a proper field or brush fire truck that can drive across fields, can drive to the back of someone's farm without damaging the vehicle or the fire equipment. And our research has indicated that the disposal value of Rescue 3 would be sufficient to cover that purchase when that time arises. So I don't know the process behind this, and I'll defer to council how that happens, and certainly entertain discussion. But that's where our department is looking and looking for direction and guidance from council on.
Okay, but basically it would be that this council would have to make an authorizing motion for you to investigate the sale of the equipment. Gary, you...
I defer to Don. Any comments on disposal of that asset?
No, we don't have anybody at this time who's interested in purchasing it, so that's a little bit different than entertaining offers or that type of thing. So basically, you would declare that David has the authority then to investigate the sale of that, and I'm not sure if you would want to put on some sort of a minimum amount that you would accept for it or that type of thing. But you'll probably be bringing back to council what options you may have for selling, whether it's strictly with Darch or whether it's with probably not an auction or those types of things, or you wouldn't get the full value at an auction really.
There are used fire apparatus dealers in the United States, some of whom we were contacted for looking at aerials. I honestly can say I've never sold a used fire truck before, so I'm not 100% sure on the process. And likewise, because we don't have to dispose of this right away, it's not like we're inclined to take the first lowest offer just to get it out the door. If it's agreeable to council, I just need the process structure behind that.
Basically, authorization to research.
Yeah, to research the sale of a used piece of
A
equipment.
used piece that has become surplus.
Okay.
Come back to council with a more formal report
No, absolutely.
outlining those options.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, James. Ray, are you seconding? Okay, thank you.
Question. What we use for medical calls in Wingham now then?
Wingham, we use Squad 5, which is the Dodge pickup truck.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion? Carried.
And last thing you don't have in your reports, but it's nice to sort of end on a very positive note. Although it occurred in July last week, FD&H personnel in assistance with EMS under our tiered response agreement responded to an individual in Wingham who had no vital signs on arrival. And that individual was resuscitated in the field, and although we don't have all the details or all the information as of today, that individual is alive, complements the efforts of Huron EMS and our firefighters. So that's pretty cool to see the training and all the effort pay off in the best way possible.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, David. I think Matt is known to most of council as someone
That's known by a lot of people.
very active in the Blythe community, and welcome to the position.
Thank you very much.
I was hoping for about a 10-minute speech.
Absolutely not.
That's what we like. Okay, moving to new business. Point 1, there's a consent application, file B22, 2014. It's for lot 34, concession 7, East Wallanosh Ward, Township of North Huron. Do you want to go into more of that, or?
Sure. Okay, thank you. We've, Sally McMullen, our planner, had another commitment tonight, so unfortunately she's not available to attend tonight's meeting. This disturbance application meets all of the criteria for surplus farm residence, and that criteria is set out in our official plan. That criteria is also listed in Sally McMullen's report. It should be noted that the applicant, Luke Schilder, who is here tonight, visited neighboring property owners to get their support and consent. In fact, we received letters of support from 9 owners in the area. It's also important to note that North Huron Council is not the final approval authority for consents. The County Council is the approval authority. So Council is not making any decision tonight, as the county will make that final approval. But Council could choose to support the recommendation of our planner to support this consent as it goes on to County Council for final approval.
Brock?
I would move that North Huron Council recommend to the county that this application be approved.
James is seconding. Yes, and the one thing at County Council, the recommendation of the lower tier is very important as to how the county looks at these applications. So. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor? Carried. Okay.
Question, what kind of time frame is this looking at? This will go before county council when?
The first Wednesday in September because of the summer scheduling, but yeah.
Just gives them a little bit of time.
Okay. So it'll be the first Wednesday of September, it goes before our county. Okay, very good.
Time? Starts at 11 or 10 or?
That meeting will start at 9. I'd have to look at it. It's usually 10:15 before the planning and consent authorities. Okay, very good, Luke. Point 2, Blythe Street Festival request to close Queen Street in Blythe on July 26, 2014 for festival use. Dave. Reach and Bodden. Okay. Any further discussion on that, or council's quite familiar with what's happening? Ray?
So this is county, then this has to go before the county too, Dave? They close it? It's Main Street?
Yeah, that's part of the approvals process that we have to undergo.
So they're the ones that have to approach the emergency services then.
Okay, all in favor of the motion? carried. Point 3. Heritage Theater.
Okay. We received a letter from Ms. Pearl Hodgins, who is a resident of Ripley. She used to live in Wingham, and she's written to council talking about her love of the Wingham Heritage Theater and would request that every consideration be given to reopening the theater. I think as council knows, there are some costly fire code upgrades that need to be undertaken if it's going to be public occupancy. There are some local residents and businesses in Wingham that are talking about the possibility of raising some funds to be able to make those upgrades and to reopen that. Not sure where those discussions are at right now, but I think they're meeting regularly to look into that. I think council is aware of the investment that would be required to reopen that.
Bernie?
I'm wondering if Gary, if you could just return, just send her a letter back, letting her know that there are actually volunteers, more volunteers stepping forward. I know it's David McGee is one of them. And if you look at the Wingham BIA exec meeting, you will see where there was a conversation on that number 5 on page 2. There's been a lot of talk about it, and there are actually more volunteers stepping forward. We've been very lucky in this community in the last few years. We have had a surge of volunteers. These gentlemen are aware of the costing and are looking at dealing with that issue, and I'm sure we're going to hear more. But I think when somebody like that sends a personal letter like that, I think it'd be great if our town would just let her know that we have not forgotten that theater and people are actually looking into it.
Certainly, and I've certainly been approached by a couple of people over the last couple of months who are very keen to see the Heritage Theater revitalized and reopened for community use. They understand there are costs that need to be undertaken, but I think they can be part of the solution as well.
I think it's also important to point out to people who are asking that this is not something that North Huron Council will take hold of and run theater programs in that facility. We really need a proposal with a firm business case of what people are planning to use that building for and how the whole procedure would be organized. We certainly don't run the Blythe Festival, but that's all covered by an agreement and a proposal, and that's how the whole thing got started. I've talked to some people who naively think that it's our job to start running programs up there, but it's really not the case.
Go ahead. Some of the individuals I've talked to in secondhand talk to is the fact that they understand there's a financial burden to reopen that and that it's not in our budget and we're not running a theater here. I think they're going to take that bull by the horns and run with it, but we'll see how that develops. Again, it's just fantastic the way people are stepping forward again and saying they want to be part of our community and they want to help, and they see some of the things we had in days gone by and they want to bring it back and help with the things that we've created in this council in the last 4 years.
Okay, thank you. Moving to council information, there's a number of points there. If anybody wants to bring certain points forward for further consideration, reasons. Possibly on the number 2, if we could have some counselors that might be able to make themselves available to be there that night. I might be able to cancel another commitment, but it will be running out on it. And this has been in place for a bit over 3 months before I knew the date of the festival, North Huron municipal night.
We already have tickets for a later showing, but I'll make sure that I'm there.
Thank you, Rob. And you don't need to say right now, but please think of it. Is there any of those points, Dwayne?
Yeah, on this union gas application, I just don't quite understand it. Can you explain what they're actually doing? What the request is?
In general terms, that it would be liquefying natural gas, basically pressurizing it.
So they're asking for support.
It's just
Here
a,
it's at.
Union Gas has filed an application with the Ontario Energy Board
Mhm.
seeking approval of rates for a new interruptible natural gas liquefaction service. This would be provided at their facility in Hagar, Ontario. So they're making us aware of the application they sent the OEB.
So it's just information. Okay.
Just keep us informed.
The more broadly they can send it out, basically, if it works well there may be other places that they would be looking at it also.
Looks like they inspired me. Just keep concept.
Oh, no. Liquefied natural gas is coming to Great Lakes freighters, so they're pushed to get LNG facilities somewhere in Ontario to refuel the Great Lakes shipping industry. And there'll be one refueling point somewhere in southern Ontario, one in Chicago, and one somewhere in the St. Lawrence Seaway area to meet the needs of that shipping industry. LNG is scarily volatile. It is natural gas is refrigerated to about -260 and then under immense pressure. So if there's a malfunction, it's quite substantial. That's what we drive some of the
Point number 4 in this.
Can I ask Dave a question? What's the difference between that and propane?
Well, propane's at atmospheric pressure and it's 100 pounds, and LNG is -200 some degrees and at probably thousands of pounds. End of the day, it's lighter than air, and that's what everybody hopes. But you can see it in large industrial applications like locomotives. CN is testing it, and shipping. Great Lakes shipping industry is looking at it as an alternative to diesel.
Okay.
At point 4, Fire Marshal and Chief Emergency Management read fire safety in vulnerable occupancies. Are you?
Sure. Ontario's vulnerable occupancy legislation, and basically what it's out to do is ensure that what happened in Quebec earlier this year never happens in Ontario. To that end, there's a fairly comprehensive program. At this point in time, the vulnerable occupancies within North Huron have been registered. There is a registry, and that was completed about 2 months ago. Fire Prevention Officer Egan and I have completed a WebEx or webinar presentation on the fire drills, because the fire drills aren't just straightforward and simple anymore. There's a whole process to it. And later this year, we'll be attending a training program put out by the Fire Marshal. There'll be one in Huron County, hopefully, possibly at the ESTC, and there are others throughout the province. Bottom line on this is that, Councillor McGowan would attest to this, is that it's fairly rigorous, it's very commonsensical, and at the end of the day, it's in the best interests of the people in these occupancies, is where this comes from. So we're fully supportive, and at this point in time, Prevention Officer Egan is, and our department is fully on top of this.
Okay, thank you. Gary?
Just wanted to highlight point number 2, the Municipal Night at the Blythe Festival is Thursday, August 7th, and there have been several invitations emailed and mailed to many municipalities, or all municipalities in Huron, Perth, Grey, Bruce, Wellington. I think last year we had over 100 elected officials and municipal staff. The year previous we had close to that. So this has become a tradition. It's a lot of fun. It's always a great performance. Many people get together beforehand for supper in one of Blythe's restaurants. So just wanted to put a plug in for Thursday, August 7th. Prior to the performance starting at 8 o'clock, there will be a reception starting at 7 o'clock in the lower hall for elected officials and municipal staff. If I may, I also want to highlight, mention point number 7, the candidate information session. That is being organized and hosted by the Huron County Clerks and Treasurers Association in partnership with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. I think I provided a copy of the flyer for the candidate information session. There will be advertisements going in the local papers promoting this. The flyer speaks for itself, but if you're thinking of running for municipal office this fall, I think this would be an excellent event to be at. The clerks and treasurers, of which I'm a clerk, we really want to keep people informed and provide information to those that are planning to run or thinking of running. We've put together a really good information session here. There will be presentations from representatives from Municipal Affairs and Housing. Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing being brought out, a motion to receive, read, and file. Auden and Reach. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving into the committee reports, YVIA, if there's anything to add or anybody has questions of Dave. Okay. If anybody has questions on the health and safety committee.
I'm sorry, I just
Okay.
made a note here. Questioning the Stantec bill for $1,980. What is that about?
That Stantec bill for 1980 was for the engineering of the parkettes on Main Street, and that bill has been forwarded on to the owners of the parkettes.
Thanks.
Okay. If there's any questions on point 2, the health and safety. Point 3, North Huron Police Services Board.
Any questions? I'll try and answer them.
Okay. Point 4, Wing BIA. Is there any?
Just want to note that the officers on duty now are carrying the cameras on their uniform, so we'll start with.
Any questions for Bernie or anything else? Okay, thank you. Moving to bylaws. Bylaw number 43, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the legal clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement with Collins Barlow Toronto LLP to undertake a tax recovery review. Jerry,
You speak of it.
Donna?
Yes. Yes, so with the implementation of HST, there are a number of companies that will come in and do an HST review of all your activities for the last 4 years to see if there are any potential cost recoveries that your computer system wouldn't have caught for you. So there's no charge to us if they don't find any potential recoveries. And if they do find something, then it's a 40% split for them, and 60, we would retain 60% of that. So it's quite common. Most of the municipalities have them in. Some have them in every year. We haven't had them in for quite a few years. The last company, there's many of these companies out there. With this one, I've done a lot of research and checked all the references. And one of the things that this company offers is a component of staff training at no charge. And because North Huron has a number of programs and activities and facilities that other municipalities don't have, I thought it would be a good time to review some of those, especially with all the activities at the EST and some of those campgrounds and things that are not normal municipal activities that nobody else has them. So I think it's a good exercise to undertake, and they guarantee that there's not a lot of staff time taken up. Maybe about a morning would be all the staff time that we have to commit. So I certainly think it's a good exercise to undertake, but in order to do that, we have to execute the bylaw to enter into an agreement. Does anybody have any questions on that?
So that's just some background on the agreements.
Mover and seconder,
I'll move for a second.
Reach and Campbell. I think Donna gave a pretty good explanation. I'll take that as all those in favor. Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Bylaw number 45, 2014. Being a bylaw to authorize the region clerk to sign on behalf of council an Alice Monroe Labor Market Partnership and Agreement between the Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities and the Corporation of the Township of North Huron.
First, second, third.
Thank you. Campbell and Bailey. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Council reports and inquiries. Brock?
I have two items. I've had a number of people mention to me they're really missing the benches that are set out around the town. I know that there's a problem with the condition of the benches, which is probably why they aren't all being set out. But I think it's important that we have seating available throughout the town because it makes the town more walkable for elderly people. And I hope that's not a conflict of interest in mentioning that. But anyway, I think that for future purposes, we should look at increasing the number of benches that we have available. And if there are any benches available at the moment, that they be put out in town, made available to our visitors and our local people. But I have another more lengthy piece that I want to raise as well, if I may.
On that, for the benches, definitely not only the elderly, as a person that has had a hip replaced and both knees replaced. When you need a place to sit down, it's sure nice to be able to have some place that you can sit on a bench or a chair, that there's some measure of reliability that it isn't going to collapse under you. So that, thank you. Do you want to go to your other point now?
Yes. We're devoting quite a bit of time and resources to restoring Blythe Memorial Hall and bringing it up to speed in terms of facility and physical appearance. But a new problem has reared its head in the last few days, in that we apparently don't have an accurate history of that building. We were really shocked when we got a copy of the program that's given out to people attending the plays this year. Right in the center of the program, there's an article giving the history of Blythe Memorial Hall, and there's hardly a word of truth in it. It is a matter of gossip and fiction and people's imagination and all sorts of things. And the festival is putting together a 40th anniversary book that they're almost ready to go to press. The article that's in the program was taken from that book. So we alerted my wife and I alerted the festival people to this problem, and they are putting inserts into the program for the rest of the season that really contradicts most of what's in that center item. The article as it is, I've talked to the person who compiled it, and what she did was she took the previous anniversaries that they had accounted in their booklets and just rolled it up into, assuming that everything in those old reviews was correct. But there are some factual errors, a lot of factual errors, and they're not the most serious part of it. For example, it says that the original hall had a seating capacity of 400 people. That's not true. It was 500 people. Now, that's not a critical error, but there are many other errors that are more serious. The most important part of it, I think, is the fact that the article gives the impression, the false impression, that the whole notion and achievement of building the hall came from the Women's Institute and the Maple Leaf Sewing Circle. Now, both of those groups were involved in getting the hall going, coming up with the idea, and they contributed a lot to it. But the whole venture was a very broadly based community project. Many other organizations contributed to the building of the hall. And in fact, the individual group that made the largest contribution was not even mentioned in the article. And that was the Blythe Choral Society, which put on 3 cantatas over the next 10-year period after the building. And they raised the largest amount of money for a single group. But there were many other groups as well. All of the municipalities around, including Hullett, Morris, and East Wawanosh, and Blythe, contributed substantial amounts of money. The teachers even took a 10% pay cut and donated that to the hall at the time of beginning. I don't know for what time period, but anyway, it was a significant contribution. And so on. There were many groups contributed to it. It was truly a community venture. And just reflecting on the theater that's above us here, that's the way that's going to become a reality is through the community effort. So the theater, they've been very obliging. They are revising the book, the 40th anniversary book, and they've passed the notes by us to make sure that at least we think it's corrected. But there's a wider issue here, and it seems to me that as owners of that facility, we should be developing an authentic, documented history of that facility, so that in the future, groups like this will not go on their own making up mythological facts about the building. And maybe we should be looking at all of our facilities, maybe like this building and the building across the street, where we have an authentic account of how the building was created and what its purpose was and all of the things that go with it. So for that reason, I'm going to make a motion tonight that as a start, we seek a qualified historian to investigate the history of Blythe Memorial community hall and put together such a document that will stand as the official record of that building to be used by any group that wants to. So that's my motion for dealing with this immediate issue.
Do I have a seconder? Okay. Okay, I'll take a little bit of license here. That when that impression became available to me, my wife and I went to, I'm not sure the exact title, but it was the book done in the 70s, the 100th anniversary of Blythe. And there was numerous reprinted newspaper articles of the time. And besides the groups that Brock mentioned, a number of individuals in Blythe, Morris, Hullett, and East Wawanach also, because of family connections, made sizable donations to that project as well. And I felt that I got a lot more information out of looking at those reprinted newspaper articles that basically specified what was done and when it was done. Other comments? Bernie?
I'm interested in your idea, but I'm just wondering if maybe we're just going about it the wrong way. Totally agree with you. Old buildings have such historical value, and this person is pretty well born and raised on the main street, less than 75 yards from here. I know a lot of the history too. But I'm just wondering if we're just not jumping too fast. First of all, we don't know what the budget would be or who we get. You're asking for a person that pretty well knows what they're doing, so I imagine it's going to have a dollar value to it. I'm wondering if you might consider restating that more to directing Connie to look into how much it would cost for a properly qualified person to find out how much it would cost to go from there. I'm on side with what you want to do, because that's my life too, it's this area. But I'm just wondering if we just stepped a little too fast there and saying just keep Blythe Memorial and get somebody, because we don't know what a budget is or where the money's coming from. It may not be done properly.
Well, my response, I don't think there's any rush on this. I mean, these lies have been flying here for 50 years, at least. But sure, any investigation that we can do is fine. And I think that in a sense, if we put out an advertisement and we get some people offering to do it and their qualification, we can determine if there's a reasonable person offering at a reasonable cost. Yeah. But I'm sure Connie could do a great job in sort of coordinating that. I want to give a couple of examples. One example, I don't know where this came from, but part of this description is that there used to be a jail in the lower hall, in the Blythe Memorial Hall. Now, this was mentioned in connection with that once a judge held court in that area, so maybe they had a jail to hold prisoners. But anyway, that's absolutely not true. There was never a jail. We already had a jail on King Street in Blythe, right behind the car, the gas pumps. So I mean, that was just one of the things that got tossed in there somehow, and we have no idea where it came from. And I just want to mention one other thing. It's good to go back and read the old records, and I think the newspapers are a really, really good source. But we can never count on one source as being an absolute truth. And that's one of the things that a historian will do, is they'll triangulate. They'll try to prove this point by maybe two other indications that they're accurate.
Yeah.
But once this kind of thing gets out, it will go for generations. For example, our citizen history review, Danny, has in the school section mentioned that the first school in Blythe was located on Dinsley Street in Blythe, where the Orange Hall was. It's not true. There's never been a school on Dinsley Street. That was written in an article back in the 1950s, I believe. And since that, many people are quoting it and assuming that it's true. The same thing will happen with this article that has appeared in the program for the festival.
And possibly theater artistic license. It maybe fits together in some ways, but yes, that having something in our history that, as you said, more than one source saying the same thing.
I should mention one thing before we go. We have a tremendous collection of background information in our collection that we would make available to anybody who's going to do the history. It's not complete. There are other things that they need to look at, but we have a good start on it.
So, Scott, can I just suggest, then, if you could just back your motion off and just give direction, would that be a better way to go? Then we can set the finances up to do it properly. Because if we read the motion back, I believe it was very specific. We wrote down the motion.
What do you have, Gary?
Councillor Biden then moves that we seek a qualified historian to prepare an authentic account of Black Memorial Hall or something to that effect.
If you want to let it stand, that's fine with me, but I'm just thinking that
I assume the judgment will be used on selecting a person and selecting a reasonable price, and it will come before us to approve it once it's settled, I would think.
Okay, Gary.
Just a comment, if, assuming this motion passes, I mean, certainly we'll do what we can to support council and with this particular request. I guess I'm hesitant to commit Connie to this, given the projects that she's working on our behalf this summer. And if this is priority, well, we'll get it done. But I guess I'm hesitant to commit her to this particular project until the fall.
But this doesn't have to be done this year necessarily. It's just something that needs to be done when possible. I think we'd be flexible on that.
Thank you.
Council, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay. Other points from council? Questions or comments?
a few of us that attended the meeting with Morris Turnberry and the ratepayers, I believe it was about a week ago tonight. It was a very good turnout, A lot of work is done by Gary and Nancy, Nikki from Morris Turnberry to try to move forward on an industrial pod at the far end of town. And I want to commend you for that, Gary, because this council does seem to have a difficult time moving forward on a few subjects because they've become so bewildering. But it was a good turnout. A lot of landowners there, a lot of issues were raised, issues we can deal with, and we have to do work hand in hand with Morris Turnberry. It was nice that Paul Dowling had spoken. I've been very eager to work with us as we move forward. And we'll see where that project takes us. I just wanted to commend you and Nancy for taking the step forward on that.
Ron?
I think what was really stood out in my mind was the fact that there was almost an air of hostility at the beginning of the meeting. Like, this plan is going to control what I can do with my land, and I'm going to be boxed in by something. But I think as the evening progressed, it became more and more positive, and I think there was really a strong positive feeling at the end of the meeting. So I think the meeting was really well managed and well presented.
And also at the end of the meeting, that I think there was a number of the property owners were ready to take a look at their own property, how it affected their own property, and they were going to get back to the planning staff that works with both municipalities. So in the end, that was very positive. And the impression I had at the start was a lot of people did not have any idea exactly what the meeting was for, and that I think in the being able to bring that knowledge forward, as you said, Bernie, helped a lot of people. Okay. If that's everything from council, to clerk administrator's report.
Okay, thank you, Reed. Council will recall that last year Huron made a multi-million-dollar investment in Wayne to install a fiber optic cable to every property in the town, and that's about the broadband economy, improving connectivity. We want to be a smart and intelligent community, not just here in Wingham, but throughout North Huron. So council is aware of that, and we see it as a real investment, a strategic investment by them in our smart infrastructure. So I think it's very good for us as we look to position ourselves and attract new residents and entrepreneurs and so on. Since then, we have been working with Huron to see if we could negotiate a contract to switch over our municipal facilities in Wingham to Huron. And it's just an FYI, but we are completing the forms. We have, our staff have negotiated a 3-year contract with Huron. We are signing the forms to make that happen. And we will be switching over municipal facilities in Wingham to Huron. There will be some new installations added, and we expect service to improve as well. So just an FYI. I guess council, yeah, sorry. I guess council are aware. Our planner, Sally McMullen, is moving on to Chatham, Kent later this summer. Her last day with us will be Friday, August 1st. Denise Van Amersfoort will be taking over from Sally as North Huron's planner. Denise is completing, or has just completed, a maternity leave. She has been with the Planning and Development Department for many years. She has been the planner for the town of Goderich. She was their planner for quite some time. She was also the planner for the township of Howick. So I know that I believe next Tuesday, Sally and Denise will be here at North Huron for Sally to introduce Denise to the staff. I'm sure Denise will be attending an upcoming council meeting. I know that Sally and Denise are working very closely together to ensure a very smooth transition with the planning and development files and initiatives that we have. So that transition is taking place.
Just on that one, I'm sure you're going to take care of it. Just to make sure you're going to send a letter of thanks to something for Sally. She's fantastic for us. I know as a counselor, anytime I've asked any questions or want to talk, she's always had time for me to explain things very well, which is very helpful as a new counselor. So I'm going to assume you've taken care of that. You would not need council direction or something like that.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it internally, but I think it's certainly our intention to have some sort of party for Sally to show our appreciation and to recognize her. And she's been a member of our team here for several years. And if you think of all of the planning initiatives that she's worked on, I mean, there's the comprehensive review, the official plan. She's managed the Wingham Creek residential subdivision proposals, as well as the severances and the zoning amendments that we get. So she's been great to work with, and she gets along very well with everyone here. So we certainly want to show our appreciation and recognize her for her efforts. And certainly, if there's some sort of function here at the town hall, that would be great if council could be here for that too.
I appreciate knowing this.
Also wanted to firm up a date for the rate study public meeting. This is a follow-up to the meeting we had with BM Ross a few weeks ago, where they provided some information to council regarding water and sewer rate increases. We're looking at either Wednesday, August 13th or Thursday, August 14th. And that meeting would take place in council chambers at 7 o'clock. So just looking to zero in on a date, and this would be a public information meeting. There would be public notice, advertisements, and so on. Any preference, council?
Either date is okay for me.
Thank you. We'll make that happen. And then finally, just wanted to note that we noticed in the hallway that there is a laptop that has been set up, and it's for people that want to go to the voterlookup.ca website to see if they're on the list. If they're not on the list, then they can certainly take steps to update their information and make sure they're on the municipal voters list for the fall. So this has replaced the traditional enumeration process that has taken place in the past. So that no longer exists. This is the enumeration, I guess you can call it. This has replaced that.
Will it be advertised that it's there and that's the way to get on? Other than the website, because not everybody reads the website.
Sure. So we've talked about this a couple of times. There will be advertisements in the papers encouraging people to go to this website, and we certainly will be issuing a tax flyer in August, and we'll include this information, encouraging people to come to the town hall to go on the website if they don't have a computer at home. So we'll certainly have opportunities to advertise this to residents. Thank you, and just a couple in camera items. So.
Okay. Public gallery questions or comments about subjects that we have discussed tonight? Danny?
This is through yourself to Connie. Connie, sorry, I didn't catch the name of the project lead for the Allison Road partnership.
Allison Neary.
Allison.
Alllyson. I'll have to send you the spelling of her last name.
Okay. How were they found / hired / who hired them?
There was
She, I suppose. Sorry.
it was advertised in most of the local papers, and then there was a hiring committee. She went through 2 rounds of interviews actually. So there was a hiring committee made up of some from the county, some from each of the municipalities involved.
And what's the salary?
The salary is, I believe it's written up at $65,000 a year for a 15-month contract.
Danny?
Street Fest, not that I'm trying to avoid it for any reason. You said it had to go to county for approval. Now, is that going to be a problem since the county doesn't really meet until after the event?
There will be, let's see, what date is it? It will be Public Works that will actually make the decision on that.
Okay.
Pauline?
Question for Gary. You mentioned in terms of repairs to the theater upstairs,
Yes.
to meet fire code, you said expensive. Can you put a number to that?
I think the number that we've used in the past is a range of $25,000 to $30,000. And then that's based on estimates that we've received, that our facility staff have received to undertake those fire code upgrades to ensure we're compliance for public occupancy buildings such as that.
Any other questions or comments? Luke?
In late May, my son was involved in a serious accident, and I would like to thank all EMS services for the response, for the fire, the rescue, the ambulance, the helicopter, everything else. And sometimes it's good to get the news out how fast you can be at a major medical center with the helicopter from here. We don't leave out mistakes, okay? So if you talk about the advertising, sometimes it's good to get those words out, because there is a stigma of moving out here. And one of the stigmas is that, oh, we're too far away from medical centers. Well, I found out we do not. And I would like to continue working based. We have a huge care, and I would like to continue in the future working with the fire department on improving the safety of it. I have learned from it, and I want to pass those experiences on to the EMS services, what I think about it, what my experience was. One of the things that has never come up to me in the past, but I've worked many farm properties, and to put in every farm tract and farm truck a list of all the 911 services, 911 numbers out there. All it takes, put it on a piece of paper, laminate it, put a screw in the dashboard, and that's it. I did. You know how much time it could have saved us? Okay.
Those precious
seconds. Okay. For me to find the 911 number by the end of the road was still a nightmare. Okay. I had them in my office, not in my truck. There's other things I would like to discuss in the future with Mr. Sparling. I haven't had the time or the legs to stand on to do it yet. We farmers don't think about it, how we can respond. We don't think about the special needs that we have at a point that we got a quarter mile away from the 911 sign. There is things that I would like to bring forward as of giving directions to the 911 call. One of them is going north, south, east, and west. The people at NORAD, I call them NORAD, where the call goes to, have no idea what north is. Absolutely no. They have no idea what west is. You tell 911 that you got to go west on Highway 4. They first ask you, is that London Road? Second question is, what is west? Right? So, I am duly impressed by how the fire department responded, and the ambulance, and the helicopter. And what really got to me was the personal involvement of all firefighters. I know many of them, and how they responded, and how they got back to me after, and so forth. So, as a whole, a great big thank you. Okay.
Thank you. How's your son doing?
Oh, he's doing good. He's now able to walk without crutches in the house. He still has, the moment he goes out, he still has to have crutches. Still is in therapy. He still has a big limp, but he's expected to recover over time. Okay.
Anything further in comments or questions? Okay, if not, I'll take a motion to go in camera. Campbell and Bailey, all in favor? Okay, for recess.